Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the 12 o'clock show. This is Red Sports Global. My name is Ashok Nambudri, and on the show we have Shomik Chakravarti joining us from Kandy and Boria Majumdar from Kolkata. Shomik, Boria, welcome to the show.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you, Shomik. Shomik is smiling. Shomik has good weather today in Sri Lanka. Ashok is also smiling because all of us have digested what happened last night. The dream is over. The bad dream is over. Now it is time to get back. Look, what we plan to do over the next 30 minutes is basically between Ashok, Shomik, myself, Vaibhav if he joins. You know, now you can't undo Ahmedabad. It's done. The scarring is real, the result is real, the 78-run defeat is real, all that is real. It is time to move forward. Sport teaches you life lessons. For me, it's a three-part lesson. One, introspect. Two, accept. And three, implement. Simple as that. Introspection, 4 points before I go to Shomik and Ashok. One, the Aksar Patel call needs to be introspected. It was a baffling call. Number two, you cannot bowl multiple no balls and offer free hits. It resulted in 14 extra runs for South Africa. Number three, you missed three or four pretty easy balls which went for boundaries. Surya Kumar Yadav twice. You conceded 15 extra runs. Number four, you are making it very predictable with the left-handers and every team coming with you with off-spinners. You need to change that and get into the opponent's mind. This is introspection. If you accept it, you will have the chance to implement. Shomik, first comments from you.
See, on the face of it, it's just a bad day at the office, and which can happen to any team. But scratch beneath the surface, and I have a few questions. To start with, did the team management, did this Indian team envisage a situation where Abhishek Sharma will go through a form slump? He had been playing brilliantly in the lead up to the tournament, and that's why he became the best T20I batsman in the world. Fine. But a lean patch come and it can happen to any player. So what was the backup plan? Number one. Number two, as far as yesterday, the way, Varun Chakravarti, yesterday's match report started from the way David Miller faced Varun Chakravarti. Passed over, bang, bang. Surya made a smart move by taking him out of the attack, and when he brought him back into the attack, David Miller, bang, bang, bang. Now, just 2 days ago, we have been talking about how Varun has been India's biggest match winner in Asian conditions in this format. A world-class bowler doesn't become third-class overnight. And Varun, I think will learn from this, will come back stronger. But what was India's plan B? When you moved to batting, they employed the lakeside choke. The lakeside choke that taking a leaf out of Pat Cummins's book from November 19, 2023. So on the offside, what was that airy-fairy shot from Washington Sundar was the response. And finally, didn't India preempt that pitches at the World Cup will not be highways? Here, the curators will have to strike a balance between bat and ball. It will not be a highway where they were reveling in the lead up to the tournament. These are the 4 questions I am asking.
Fair point. All of these are fair questions, Ashok. The question now that we need to ask, do we have answers to them? Can India find answers to these questions? Because like we started, Ahmedabad is history. You are 2 down. You are a match down, but you still have 2 matches to go, and that should be enough to redeem because you don't need to depend on other results now. Focus on your job at hand, win big matches. You will still make the semifinals. According to me, this team is good enough. No chance for obstinacy anymore. No chance for failure anymore. Ashok, your thoughts? Can we make a comeback from here on?
I think it's pertinent to point out that yesterday on Sunday, both the teams that won actually batted first. And what is common to both of them is that both read the conditions very well. So what's baffling, first of all, let's accept that this team is right up there. If there's a team that's capable of bringing home the World Cup, this is the team. There is no doubt about that. So we are accepting that on the outset. I think the issue is really about one, in terms of selection, what is the logic that one is employing? And if you're then picking up Washington Sundar to play ahead of Akshar Patel, who's the vice captain and brings in an element of leadership given conditions on the ground, then if you have selected this as a strategy, are you following it through with your execution basis that strategy? So if you've got Washington because there are three left-handers in the top order in South Africa, then make him play the power play, make him bowl in the power play. You didn't do that. You brought him much later on. Finally, you gave him only 2 overs to bowl. From a batting perspective, he didn't really, accelerate the run rate. He didn't do anything really big. And if you see the track record, he hasn't done anything to deserve his place at that point of time. So it's very baffling, and therefore, as part of what you said, which is the introspection process, critical to understand why you're doing something. If you're doing something, then follow it up for God's sake. And you can't really not do that. So I would say that that part of it is important. There is execution, which is about reading the conditions, ensuring that you have a plan B to Shomik's point. And in this case, one of the points that I had actually thought about was that there was no plan B. It was a very unidimensional approach, saying that I have a bat, I will go for fours and sixes. Where was all the discussion and the debate about building the innings, partnerships, taking the singles, converting them to twos? What happened to all that? And I thought, therefore, that was a very one-dimensional thinking in terms of the approach. I think it's a very required shock effect that India needed at this point of time. And like the theme of this show, India needs to go in saying that the next 2 matches are going to be knockout matches. If they can apply that discipline and execution to their thinking, there's no reason why they cannot be in this situation.
Precisely, and Vaibhav, it was expected. 4 things. One, social media is in a meltdown. Expected. You will see a lot of irrational comments. Players will become villains overnight. You will see everybody bad. You will see the coach castigated, captain castigated. All that is fine because social media gives poison a platform. That's totally fine by me. It is also equally important for the players to cocoon themselves now. Stay as a flock. Be together. Have the self-confidence. Continue to have the belief. Because overnight, none of these fellows become a bad cricketer. To win cricket games for 1 year is not easy. Whatever anybody says, they have been able to do that. Now, 4 games, 4 knockouts. Your thoughts, Vaibhav? How does India approach from here on the game in Chennai in 2 days from now?
See, first things first, you need to, get your playing 11 sorted. Because yesterday we were speaking before the match that it should be Akshar Patel replacing Washington Sundar, not the other way around. We didn't expect Washington Sundar to retain his place because, as I said, that if you are talking about 3 left-handers in the South Africa playing 11 in Quinton de Kock, Ryan Rickelton, and David Miller, there are 3 right-handers as well. There is an Aidan Markram, Deval Brevis, and Tristan Stubbs, and all of them scored yesterday. So you have to understand that these matchups you should take this into account, but you should also take into account who is your better option, who is your better player. In T20 cricket, Akshar Patel head and shoulders above Washington Sundar, and that is one thing. Playing 11. Other thing that you need to take into account is the entry points. Entry points is something is very important in T20 cricket when you are sending which batter. Yesterday you sent Washington Sundar ahead of Rinku Singh. I think Rinku Singh, yes, he has a problem against spin, but I would have definitely backed Rinku Singh to bat at number 5, not Washington Sundar. Yeah, Washington Sundar didn't bowl his complete quota of 4 overs, and he lacked confidence in the last game as well in the against Netherlands. Aryan Dutt outshined. Washington Sundar. Washington Sundar is definitely a better bowler, but because he played his first match after a long injury layoff, you could see that he was struggling. So there was no point in making somebody like Washington Sundar play against South Africa. The team who were unbeaten heading into the yesterday's game. So I think first playing 11 you have to sort, and the other thing is the entry points. You are definitely not making most of Rinku Singh the batter. Rinku Singh is an excellent fielder, but you have to give Rinku Singh more opportunities with the bat. It's the same pattern that we see with KKR. KKR have never utilized Rinku Singh's potential as a batter in the last couple of years, and that's what their problem has been, especially in the last season. I don't want to see going ahead in the Zimbabwe game that Rinku Singh is batting lower than Akshar Patel or Washington Sundar or whoever, because entry points is something you need to keep an account, and that itself decides in a run chase. Entry points itself decides the fate of the game.
Okay. Ashok, the other point is South Africa were reduced to 20 for 3. They kept nerve. they made a comeback. It is not as if India did not have their moments. Vaibhav makes the point about Washington Sundar. The one thing that highlighted Washington Sundar's state of mind for me is that ball where he ran in and considered a boundary. It was simple. It was the last part of the South African innings. Hardik was bowling. There was no need for him to charge in. All he could have done was stand back and concede one run, which could have got the new batter on strike. Instead, he conceded a boundary. These are elementary mistakes that India made. So the question that I'm asking is, yes, Vaibhav makes the point about Aksar for Washington. Any other change that you want to see? And by the way, a lot of people saying India's World Cup is over. Anyone who says so doesn't understand jack of cricket. Simple as that. Yes, Ashok.
No, I agree completely with you that the approach that Washington Sundar brought was didn't make sense. It was quite baffling. In fact, I kept thinking, was it because he's plays for Gujarat Titans, he's familiar with the conditions? But when I went back and looked at the IPL 2025 data, he hasn't really played enough games. I think out of 15 games, he played only 6. And at the Narendra Modi Stadium, I think he played only 3 out of 7 that the team played. So what exactly did he bring to the table? I'm not sure. As regards that fielding lapse that you spoke about, you are suddenly making a change in place of Aksar, and obviously you are going to be rusty. You're not going to bring in your A game at that point of time. In terms of changes, I think the point that you mentioned about predictability, it's a very serious concern. I think teams. See, one thing that we must realize from yesterday's game is that South Africa has also created a template for other nations to follow. They're going to say, hey, here's an opportunity to beat India. This is what South Africa has done. And therefore, that's the larger learning. From that perspective, 2 changes, if I could look at. One is, how do I change the predictability of the top 3 left-handers? Because, there seems to be a formula that's been worked out in terms of bringing an off-spinner, employ him in the power play, ensure that you don't give them an opportunity to get under the ball and get that elevation. These are the kind of things that the teams are thinking about already. So how do you break that paradigm is the question. You can do that by saying, okay, should we then say Tilak Verma is not really looking in his purple patch and therefore there is an opportunity to bring in somebody like a Sanju Samson. It's not really about experience versus, lack of experience. It's really about, bringing in a certain quality which will shock the opposition. So that's one change that I would definitely look at. I wouldn't, tinker with Rinku Singh, like Vaibhav said. I think Rinku Singh is the only person who lower down the order can employ that strategy of saying, I'll get 5 balls or 6 balls to face and I will score that 12, 15, 20 runs. Nobody else can do it. I think it's really about ensuring that you get your discipline in. But coming to your point, one is perhaps to look at a Tilak Verma versus a Sanju Samson kind of an option is the only change that I would really look at.
Shomik, this thing that Ashok makes, and I will take this question to Shomik and then go to questions because there are a lot of questions. Obviously, people are angry, people are frustrated, and one can see the reflection in the comment section. Most of them irrational, but some rational questions have also come. Shomik, the question to ask, are you seeing Ishan go down to 3? Sanju comes in at the top with Abhishek and Tilak getting dropped because that's the most obvious kind of call at this point. You cannot drop Ishan, you cannot drop Abhishek. Now that you've backed them, Tilak less than run a ball, 1-6 in the World Cup so far. Number 3 is becoming that issue. Drop Ishan, put Sanju up, negate that off-spinner strategy, get into the minds of the opponent as well, and counter that challenge. Is that the way forward? Because otherwise, Sikandar Raza and Roston Chase are waiting for you.
Yeah, the thing is that what my understanding is that India at this moment in time are mulling on just one change for the Zimbabwe game, and that is Akshar Patel coming back in place of Rinku Singh at this moment in time. That is what they have been contemplating on after this game. Sanju Samson might have an outside chance, but only when they will go to Chepak, will have a feel of the conditions. They will decide. It is Sanju Samson at number 3 in place of Tilak Verma.
No, at the top.
I think
at the top. Sanju Samson opens with, from what I understand, is the thought.
Yes.
You are also following it very closely. that Sanju opens with Abhishek, counters the
Yes.
off spin challenge. Ishan comes in at 3. Yes, Shobhit.
Exactly, yes. So that is I at this moment in time I would say that this that has an outside chance, but there is a definite chance of it. Even at the post match press conference, Ryan Ten Doshkata, first of all, Ryan Ten Doshkata admitted to overthinking, and then he said, we thought we give it a long enough thought whether to play Akshar or Rinku Singh, and eventually we look at the matchups. Now there, that was where India made mistakes. I think the think tank made the mistake, because matchups for IPLs, you are playing a World Cup here, and matchups are not for a World Cup. If you look at Rohit Sharma, he always he always emphasized on stability in tournament cricket, especially in a World Cup. You bank on stability. Rohit never tinkered with the combination unless it was absolutely necessary. So from that point of view, this tinkering, tweaking, and tinkering, that is good for bilateral or IPL. Matchups are for IPL. Matchups are not for World Cup. So that was the error. But as the question that you asked me, as things stand, my understanding is that India very likely will go with one change, Akshar Patel for Rinku Singh, and we have to see. Sanju Samson might have an outside chance to pair up with Abhishek at the top.
That's an important point made, Ashok. Akshar Patel for Rinku. So you clearly are keeping in that all-round option, keeping in Washington Sundar, going in with that change to try and give your bowling a bit more meat. The fact is that going to be good enough? Because until and unless you change the top order, last 3 innings, 0, 0, and 1. That's your opening partnership. Tilak comes in almost as opener, under pressure instantly, and has gotten out. So that's something that India will really need to rethink. Also, what I was a little taken aback by, when you are 51 for 5, you know the game is gone. There is no reason to play the big shots. Take it to 130, 140. Get closer to that net run rate. You could have easily taken it to 140, 45. That's game awareness. You expect game awareness from Hardik and Shivam. If you get to 145, you are only 30, 35 runs short, which means the net run rate doesn't take a beating. That too for me was an issue, Ashok.
Absolutely. I did mention the game awareness. It is baffling that at that point of time, you could have actually kind of steadied it. I still believe that, we lost initially in the power play. I think we scored only 31 runs, which I think in recent times is the lowest that we have done. But you could have built a partnership. I mean, South Africa, I think, was very intelligent in that perspective. The way Miller and Brevis played, I think,
Brevis.
yeah, they, and then later on Stubbs came in and scored that 44. I thought that they built the partnership, taking the singles, taking the twos. It's an irony that in the pre-show before the match we were talking about, are we taking too much of preparation, too much of time to build and stabilize and take the match deep? And here comes a situation where you need to do that, and you kind of miss the opportunity. I think your first question in terms of the bowling change, Aksar coming in place of Rinku, I think there will be occasions in a tournament like this where your star performer Varun Chakravarti in this case will have an off day, and therefore you need to have a backup option. Yesterday you can't fault Bumrah or Rashdeep. Between them they got 5 wickets. In fact, they got all the initial breakthroughs. The problem is that the day Varun has an off day, you need somebody else to step up and absorb the pressure. And therefore, the strategy of getting in an Aksar will actually help that. So, in my view, if you can strengthen the top order, because effectively Tilak Varma has been opening the innings. So, supposing you bring in a Sanju Samson, you look at a Washington Sundar, bring in an Aksar at the end, I think that will balance it out. But balancing is not the only problem. You also need to execute in line with the points that we made, which is to have game awareness, build a partnership, ensure that you are sticking to your plan.
Okay, let's take questions. I'll start with you, Vaibhav. Plenty of questions have come. Let's try and take some sensible ones, because there are a lot of so-called crazy comments, which are expected, by the way. That's social media for you. Uh, Social media for you. Whoever wins against that's a comment. Hustler says net run rate won't matter. West Indies 2 games India needs to win. Freaking awesome. Losing is fine. It happens in cricket. Manner you lost the game is unacceptable. No fight. They surrendered. Not expected this from India. Vaibhav, quick answer.
See, Keshav Maharaj, gave away runs, 22 or 23 runs in his first 2 overs, and then you gave him 3 wickets in 1 over. That itself tells you he didn't bowl as good as his figures reflected. And in 1 over, if you're losing 3 wickets, if you're not taking game into deep and you know that you cannot win from this position, from particular position, you should always, try to reduce the winning margin of the opposition team. That you didn't do. I think that's where the problem lies. And going ahead, at least if there is a situation like this, at least you should try and think about your net run rate, nothing else.
Shomik, Vaibhav Taragi, Abhishek's innings yesterday was more concerning than the three ducks. He looked utterly underconfident in the 12 deliveries. Very likely when you have three ducks because self-doubt will creep in. Shomik, your answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are coming into a game on the heels of three ducks. Whoever you are, even if you are the best batsman in the world, self doubt will creep in, and that is the mental ghost you have been. That is the mental ghost Abhishek Sharma has been fighting with at this moment in time. I still think for Abhishek Sharma, it is about that 150, just 150, and he would be fine again. Uh, it happens to everyone. Unfortunately for Abhishek, it has happened during this World Cup, and it is absolutely mental rather than it has got nothing to do with his technique or anything or approach, because this approach has taken him to the top of the T20I batting tree. Now it is totally mental, and he just need one big knock. Maybe a calming presence at the other end will help. I don't know. Sanju Samson and Abhishek Sharma worked up a fantastic opening combination over the last 1 year, and they understand each other, and it is a game of partnership. Batting revels in partnership. It is always about partnership. There is no individual in this sport. So someone like Sanju at the other end, psychologically, that could be that might have a calming effect for Abhishek.
Vaibhav, quick, sorry, let's go to Ashok. Ashok, we are contenders due to our bowlers. The batting exposed, Priyanshu says, in every second game. Clearly, again, anger seeping through. This batting is what won you many games in the last 1 year. You will say pitches, you will say all of that. A couple of games, and by the way, scoring 175 against Pakistan was not a bad batting effort on a Premadasa. So one needs to not lose perspective. The same batting got 194 from a position of relative, pressure against Netherlands. Again, not a bad batting effort. So to castigate is easy. To lose reason is easy. Ashok, your thoughts on the batting?
Yeah, I think this is clearly a lot of frustration, anger, and disappointment seeping through. There is no doubt about that. In fact, yesterday before the pre-show, I went and looked at the bilateral series numbers. India versus New Zealand, the last series that India played. It's not that Abhishek Sharma was scoring in all the matches. There were actually 3 innings, 2 above 50 and 1 actually only 30 runs. So what really happened was that the rest of the batting stepped up to take the challenge. You did have a Shivam Dubey firing on all cylinders. Hardik Pandya was in top form. Rinku Singh was delivering where it was required. Surya Kumar Yadav has actually played a lot of knocks. So you're absolutely right. This batting has actually delivered a lot for us in the last 6 months. To then write it off suddenly is again going to be a bigger blunder, because then you're saying there is a strategy and then I'm not going to execute to that. I think there are clearly issues here in terms of specifics that need to be addressed. Abhishek Sharma, I think Shamik is absolutely right. He is perhaps just that one innings away from getting back to form. He is the world's number one T20 batter, and it's about really a psychological input that the coach and the captain need to work with him to get him back into shape. Two,
Vaibhav, yeah,
the issue is really Tilak Verma. If we can address it with what we talked about, I think it'll come good. So I don't think it's really a batting issue.
Vaibhav, Ahmedabad and India are becoming a bit of a nightmare. Huh? I mean, big games in Ahmedabad are becoming a bit of a nightmare. So when you do your scheduling henceforth, think about big games in Ahmedabad, because players are a superstitious lot. Vaibhav.
Yeah, see, you have the ghost. You have everybody's processing the 19 November till date, and you still you yesterday you lost to South Africa. So there will be concerns. I think you have to read the conditions better. Game awareness is something we have already talked about in this show, but yeah, going ahead, India must do something to win big matches in Ahmedabad, because see, final will be played at Ahmedabad. So if you are going to the final, if you are reaching to the final, then that will be the game that everybody will look up to and see that, yeah, this is the game that India shouldn't lose, because two final losses at the same venue, then you will call for something that, yeah, this is becoming something which is out of everybody's control. Losing two finals at the same venue, then people will start bringing their superstitious things that you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and all that black magic and something after if you lose the Ahmedabad final this time around.
Shomik, the point is you lost to South Africa in 2011. In the pool stage, you went on to win the World Cup. The women lost to South Africa, they went on to win the World Cup. You want to buy on superstition? There is multiple examples there are that Indian teams have lost men, women to South Africa and have gone ahead and won the World Cup. Simple as that. Shubhadeep Mondal has sent 1 million questions. Take one. India's World Cup is over 99%. South Africa will lose the last match intentionally to kick India out by run rate. The fact is, South Africa plays before India, Shubhadeep. So India has the final call with the run rate. So there is no way such kind of nonsense happens in an international tournament that you lose matches. In London Olympics, somebody tried it and got penalized for life. But the question that is important here is, Shomik, now that your net run rate is behind, if I take Shubhadeep's question, do you kind of keep that in mind against Zimbabwe, or you just go for a win?
See, I think tonight's game between West Indies and Zimbabwe is massive from India's perspective. Because if it is a close match, that augurs well for India. If I don't think it will happen, but if by any chance West Indies win big, and hypothetically, I'm just doing the permutation and combination, West Indies are going to beat South Africa beating Zimbabwe, then that is bad news for India. So from that perspective, tonight's game, I think it is a humongous game from India's perspective. Tonight's West Indies versus Zimbabwe. I expect India to beat Zimbabwe. India were 2016 World Cup. India first game, New Zealand, you were there. Nagpur, 79 all out. 79 all out. And India came back to reach the semi-finals where they lost to a brilliant West Indies. Lendl Simmons, out of nowhere, in came Lendl Simmons and upset the apple cart. But the difference is that if you look from 79 all out to this team, that team was very good to put a bad result out of their system and bounce back, in the sense that team had serious strong characters. MS Dhoni, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Ravichandran Ashwin. I mean, you name it. If you look at the spine of this team, yes, you have Surya Kumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya, Jasprit Bumrah. But overall, you compare this team to that. I mean, those teams, that team had Galacticos. I still expect India to bounce back. India will beat Zimbabwe. I believe India will beat Zimbabwe. West Indies game, I will say, still 55 in India's favor. India should beat West Indies. But India, because of their net run rate, minus 3.800, which is a big hit. Because of net run rate, India might have to look at the other results to qualify.
Quick last comments. Vaibhav, do you see India going through before I give the last words to Ashok? My point is India will qualify. So I'm putting it very straightforward. I don't see West Indies beating South Africa. Just play to your strengths, beat the West Indies, beat Zimbabwe. There is no reason for India to not beat the West Indies or Zimbabwe. Eden Gardens wicket. There's no problems with the Eden Gardens wicket. I'm still putting my money on India to qualify. Aberration, Ahmedabad, India will come back and come back strong. That's my point. Vaibhav, yours and Ashok's take.
Yeah, I also believe that India will qualify. We have seen that in the past. A lot of times India have been put under pressure and they have bounced back strongly. And that is what they are going to do in the next two games. Hopefully they don't commit the mistakes which they committed yesterday night with the play, whether it's the playing 11, whether it's the entry points. I think they will fix those things and they will qualify for the semis.
Ashok, final words?
I completely agree. I don't think there's any structural issue. In fact, India had the game in the first few overs. It was basically lack of discipline. Those two no balls and the 14 runs that India gave away, and then lost the way a little bit. It's really about tightening the execution, coming back, and going for the win in the next two matches.
Let me end the show on this note. If you're an Indian cricket fan, this is your time to back the team. You can abuse after, firstly, there is no reason to abuse at all. You can be critical, constructively critical, ask your questions, why Aksar, why not Washington, all these questions can surely be asked, should be asked. Why there was no plan B. To be abusive is nonsense. No one deserves abuse. Number two, if there was ever a time that the fans need to back the team, it is now. Yesterday, Sri Lanka lost, the nation is not in meltdown. In India, the nation is already in meltdown. We have seen multiple teams lose. England has lost the Ashes 4-1. For them, the Ashes loss is far more important than a T20 World Cup. The nation is not in meltdown. Ben Stokes has not been castigated like Gautam Gambhir or Surya Kumar Yadav is. So have perspective. The problem with Indian cricket is we lack balance, we lack perspective. The moment we win, you are God. The moment you lose, you are dog. That doesn't need, we don't need that. Have your balance, have your perspective. The four of us collectively believe that India has a chance to go through and will go through. We will continue to back the team while continuing to ask the questions. Shomik Chakraborty will track from Sri Lanka. Ashok Nambudri and Vaibhav will track all of the games. As we speak, Gargi, Rohit, and Shubhayan have just landed in Chennai. So all the updates from Chennai in the afternoon. Thank you very much, folks, for watching.